This, ladies and gentlemen, is an example of a waste of resource. The CVJ Angel Wings. They look nice, but they sound like nothing I've heard before. Okay, at least in IEM shape, in recent memory. The last time I've heard something as bad as this was probably some free IEMs I got on a flight on like Singapore Airlines or something. But I think even those were better than these. Now, before we start the full review, disclaimer that this unit was sent in by a subscriber. And I don't know what it is with my luck. It's just that the past few reviews, I've only had terrible stuff to review. I hope the next few items don't disappoint me. But yeah, so this review will be completely of my own honest opinion. And let's just start, I suppose. Now, the first thing that you're going to be noticing about the CVJ Angel Wings is that they look absolutely beautiful. The shell looks beautiful, they're built very well, they feel actually pretty solid, but for some reason, right, it seems that they forgot the A on the Angel Wings on the right unit, so it just says Angel Wings, and it doesn't seem to be a problem of them falling off because they're inside of the resin, so that's pretty funny. To me at least, but god damn do they look beautiful. If only they didn't sound this terrible, because they really do. They sound absolutely horrible. I can have nightmares about how this sounds. And speaking of nightmares, the cable is not a nightmare. The cable is fine. Feels like a generic Chi-Fi cheap cable. It's an angle jack. It's fine, nothing much. The box has a waifu character, as per usual, as it is popular with all of the IEMs from Chi-Fi nowadays. I don't know why I've even bothering doing the whole unboxing thing, because yeah, just don't buy these. Okay, don't buy these. It's a waste of resource. Like, for Christ's sake, it's not worth it. Okay, and speaking of why they're not worth it, okay. The base of these CVJ Angel Wings, right, is very emphasized. There's a lot of sub bass, a little less mid bass than there is sub bass, but the whole base is just one noted. It's very rumbly. It's massive. It's full bodied. It reminds me of early day beats, but even those beats sounded better than these. Okay, this is just like sticking a 12-inch subwoofer on your head, okay, and not in a good way, because if you stick a 12-inch subwoofer to your head, at least you'll get proper texture and a concussion possibly, and maybe some brain damage. But with these, the only thing that you'll be hearing is just regret. Okay, it's not a fun time listening to bass on these, because it just sounds like it's just terrible. It bleeds everywhere. It covers up everything. I don't know why they did this. There's no control. Speed is slow. Nothing. No texture. Nothing. Nada. Okay. Now talking about the mid-range now. The mid-range of these is probably the biggest criminal aspect. Okay. It's so goddamn distant. Okay. It's not recessed. It's an understatement. It's like there's no mids on these, okay? I can barely hear anything in terms of focus unless I crank them up all the way up, okay? And even then, with risking my ears from being blown with how the bass sounds on these because of how much emphasis there is on the bass, the mids are terrible, okay? They're very nasal. It sounds like the singers didn't notice that they had a stuffy nose on that day, and the audio engineers and everyone else didn't notice that as well, because everyone was deaf because they were listening using the CVJ Angel Wings or something. I don't know. Like, I don't mind a recessed signature. I don't mind the V-shaped signature. Okay, I don't mind the mids being behind in the mix, but at least make them somewhat listenable. This is just terrible. Okay. I wouldn't send this to my worst enemy, okay? I would need to have some very deep-rooted hatred to just want someone to listen to these for me, okay? Don't, okay? Now, the only saving grace of this, right, because of how recessed the mids are on these, is that the upper mids at least aren't shouty. They're a little bit more emphasized compared to the rest of the mid-range, but that's where the positives end. Separation's absolute rubbish. There's barely any detail. It's a massive disappointment. The treble on these sound very crushed, very crunched. There's BA timbre everywhere. This sounds like one of those like shitty BAs that Zenit used to use in their early days, on like their ZSTs and stuff. This is what it reminds me of, but like on the like very terrible QC units ones, where the treble is just, where it sounds like it's just reverbing off as like a tin can or something like that. It's absolutely terrible. It just, and if you listen to these, like if you listen to Dragon Force on these, right, everything just sounds like a huge mush. Everything's just like, and that's about it. It sounds like aluminium being crunched, right? And it doesn't sound like anything. It's just terrible. And let's not even get to soundstage, because frankly put, there's none of it here. Okay, it's not to the point where it's an etymologic level, surely, but the soundstage on these confuses me. Okay, it's the most boxed soundstage I've heard in a really long time. And when we talk about imaging, there's none of it. There's no imaging at all, which is understandable, because everything's just recessed. And I don't know how to even further elaborate on how terrible these are. Like, if I were to continue on the problems of the treble, for example, of these, I could go on and on and on and on. But I feel like it's just a waste of time. Actually, you know what? I forgot to mention the treble of these don't have any extension. There's a small amount of just sibilance because it's very muffled. Yeah, there's just not much. There's barely any details on these. It doesn't have separation capability of even like a cheap IEM that you can get from the counter. I don't know what to do with these. Okay, like, you know, somebody thought of this, right? They mentioned to their boss, like, you know what, or maybe the boss told them, like, you know what, I want a new IEM to be made. I want it to be called the Angel Wings. Okay, I want this design, right? And I want this sound. Okay, somebody engineered it, somebody approved it, somebody made a whole production line of it, right? They did all the logistics, they put in all the effort, they hired people to produce this, they asked distributors to sell this, and somehow this reached the shelves. This is why we can't have nice things, right? For some reason, stuff like this can get out into the world and nobody is stopping these, right? And I feel sorry for whoever had to approve this if it wasn't of their free will, or if they couldn't be bothered doing their job, then might, like, you know, maybe find another job. I don't know, man. This is not a way to waste resources. Okay, this is not worth it, right? Recycle this. Okay, it's I don't know. I'm having a breakdown. It's just ticking me off, right? Because like there should be a limit to how bad something can be, right? And this is just too much. I don't think even people who love L-shaped sound, right? Which, by the way, this L sound, this L-shaped sound is just like you taking the L for purchasing these, because they're just fucking terrible. Okay, I've regained a little bit of my composure. Okay, and all I can say is that don't buy these. Distributor, just get rid of these, return these to the factory, tell them to recycle this. Okay, just take the shell, like put in new drivers and resell them, right? Then we're all happy. They put in like some $5 drivers and they might sound better than these will. Then everyone's gonna be happy. Less wasted resources. Right? And for crying out loud, I don't know how they could even miss the fact that they didn't put an A in Angel Wings here. Because that seemed to be a massive selling point. So I just find it funny. Can't imagine how much time was spent on these to engineer them, sell them. And I'm sorry that my reviews in the past few days, past few weeks, have just been rants and stuff. It's just simply the fact that I've just been receiving very bad stuff. And I hope that the next review that I'm gonna be doing will be on something that's at least remotely decent. I think getting punched in the face is probably better than listening to these. Yeah, I think I would rather take that. And on that note, see you guys next time.